Hi. Hey. Long time no see or whatever. I have not uploaded to this YouTube channel in quite some time. The last time that I posted on this YouTube channel was when it was snowing outside. Now it's hot as balls. Who else up sweating their balls off? Am I right? For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kennedy. I am an MFA creative writing student in the poetry track. I live in Boston. I work at a bookstore, and obviously I like to read books. 2025 has been the year of me crawling, like absolutely prying my way out of a reading slump. One could say I've been in a reading slump probably since like elementary school. Like one could say I have been in a reading slump since I read A Series of Unfortunate Events, honestly. School reading killed my passion for reading for the longest time. In undergrad, I kind of started getting back into reading. During the pandemic is when I kind of regularly got back into reading. Of course, romance was my gateway drug. I feel like romance was a lot of people's reintroduction into reading, and that really reignited my passion for reading. Then last year, I started grad school. Obviously, I'm studying creative writing and poetry, so last year I read a lot of poetry collections, a lot of really amazing ones. At the beginning of the summer, I got a job at an indie bookstore in Boston. It has given me the motivation to read more than I have since I was a kid. And going into this next semester, I'm actually going to be taking some classes that aren't so poetry focused, are kind of more on the fiction student track. I'm very excited, but I was a little nervous because I felt a little rusty. Rust no more. The queen has figured it out. It's August 1st, so a little over halfway through the year, but I figured why not do a little mid-year reading check. I've read about, I think, 13 books so far this year. That is like maybe the most books I've read in a single year, maybe ever. I have read a lot of books that I just absolutely adore and love. So yeah, let's get into it. This is in no particular order because, oh my God, I cannot be bothered to sit and figure out the timeline of when I read everything because I didn't keep track. But we're gonna start with a poetry collection, and this is Felicity by Mary Oliver. I have read a lot of single Mary Oliver poems. Obviously, if you're a poet, you know the Wild Geese poem. Absolutely love her. I think that her language is so tender and beautiful, and Felicity is for the lover girls. Let me tell you, Felicity is for the lover girls. This collection is just straight love poems. I want you to imagine like frolicking through a meadow, right? Like a beautiful meadow. The weather's perfect, right? Like maybe like a good like 70 degrees with like a slight breeze. You're wearing like something flowy and you're like frolicking and you're like, oh, life cannot get much better than this. And then you look to your side and you're like, oh my God, the love of my life is right next to me. You think it can't get better, but it does. Love of nature meets love of everything and life and people. I do have a favorite poem in this collection. It's called I Know Someone. I know someone who kisses the way a flower opens, but more rapidly. Flowers are sweet. They have short, beatific lives. They offer much pleasure. There is nothing in the world that can be said against them. Sad, isn't it, that all they can kiss is the air? Yes, yes, we are the lucky ones. We are so lucky that we get to experience love and affection in the way that we do. I made my boyfriend a little mini zine for our 1-year anniversary. Let me go get it, actually. I made him this little zine for our 1-year anniversary, and it just kind of has like some of our memories of our first year together. And this is like the second page, and it has the poem on it and like a bunch of pictures of us kissing. What can I say? I'm a simp. I'm so down bad. Now, this is the book that really pulled me out of a reading slump. Paradise Logic by Sophie Kemp. Look at this cover, first and foremost. When I tell you, okay, I was walking through a bookstore with my boyfriend and his sister, and I saw it, and I was like, now what the hell is that? For like a week after that experience, I was like, oh my God, I cannot stop thinking about this book. It's a story about a 23-year-old girl named Reality Khan who goes on her journey to becoming the best girlfriend in the world. She's delusional. The book is just a fever dream. It really is just a fever dream. I've seen criticisms on it where, like, people are like, it's trying too hard to be, like, funny or, like, a critique on society, blah, blah, blah. I was laughing out loud when I was reading it. Literally, like, reading it and giggling out loud. If you have ever been in, like, a situationship where the other person is just, like, so clearly either not into you or, like, not willing to commit their time to you, but in your eyes, you're like, la 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 la, then this is the book for you. Really, like, yeah, when you're 23, you're gonna do some of the craziest shit for love, in the search for love, and what you think is love isn't actually love, and I just thought it was absolutely brilliant. So that kind of started my journey with, like, weird girl books. I wanted to read more weird ass books. Naturally, I picked up Bunny by Mona Awad. I know this book is so polarizing, okay? I have heard people say that they absolutely love it, and I have heard people say that they absolutely hate it. I thought Bunny was a masterpiece. Okay, Mona Awad has quickly become, like, one of my favorite authors of all time. She's so weird. She's so weird. I love how her brain works. Bunny is about this girl named Samantha who is an MFA creative writing student. She's on the fiction track, and she encounters this very, like, cliquey group of girls who happens to be, like, the rest of her cohort. They all call each other Bunny. They're all a little strange, and she has this one friend, Ava, and she just kind of hangs out with her and is like, they're weirdos. I don't want to hang out with them. She kind of can't help her intrigue towards them, and she's like, okay, I need to see what this is all about. They do these, like, things that they call smut salons, where they turn bunnies into men, and they're trying to, like, create, like, the perfect, like, man out of a bunny. And Samantha kind of slips in and out of, like, losing herself and her own artistry and becoming one of these bunnies, and then, like, realizing that she's kind of, like, losing it. Basically, the whole thing is, like, this big metaphor for, like, MFA programs burning out their students. At least that's what I got from it, and I think that maybe that message was very strong to me because I had just finished my first year of my MFA program. The follow-up to that, I received a physical arc of the sequel, We Love You, Bunny. This was not sent directly to me, let me just state. Because I'm a bookseller, I get access to digital arcs of books. And so I got the digital arc of this book, and I didn't read it for a while. One of the people that I work with at the bookstore actually received a copy of this, and she was giving it away. And I jumped on it so fast. So, like, she sent the message about, like, hey, does anyone want any of these books? And I saw this book in her pile, and I was like, please, please. And she gave it to me. We Love You, Bunny is kind of, like, simultaneously a prequel and a sequel. Giving, like, Bunny was Samantha's novel. It was all from her point of view. And in We Love You, Bunny, it takes place years after their MFA program. The girls in her cohort are pissed at how she wrote them in her book. They're absolutely pissed. And so they kidnap her at one of her book tour stops. And they tie her up, and they're basically like, now we're going to tell you how it actually happened. So they're talking directly to Samantha throughout the entire book, and it switches points of view. Obviously, I can't tell you much because it hasn't come out yet. It comes out in September. Go buy it. It comes out in September. I did not think that a almost 500-page book that was written entirely in second person's point of view would, like, grip me the way that it did. It was actually the only book that I read in July. When I finished Bunny, I had my assumptions of, like, what was really going on with the whole, like, smut salon situation. How did they start turning boys into bunnies? It was all answered in We Love You, Bunny, plus some. So, piggybacking off of the Mona Awad train, I read her book 13 Ways of Looking at a Fat Girl. It was another banger. Like, an absolute banger. This book is written in 13 chapters or 13, like, vignettes. Kind of skip through time in the main character's life where, like, her body is always, like, the center of her thoughts. She grew up overweight, she loses weight, she gains it. As someone who has struggled with my weight my entire life, and who has had family members and friends and bullies who have made my weight, like, the forefront of every thought I have ever had about myself. I felt so ridiculously seen by this book. The main character's flawed. She has a ton of internalized fat phobia, so much self-hatred that comes with thinking about your body in that way. It made me uncomfortable because it was bringing up so many personal emotions for me. We live in a society where like fat women are simultaneously shamed and fetishized. Like, it really is just like one or the other. Body neutrality is such a hard thing to get to. Yeah, that book had me doing a lot of thinking. Following along on the weird girl train, I read my first Ottessa Moshfegh book, My Year of Rest and Relaxation, which is another highly polarizing book. People either love it or they hate it, and I'm a lover. Now, I actually read this book because, well, one, it had been on my TBR for a while, but two, it's one of my boyfriend's favorite books. He loves Ottessa Moshfegh. So I had him read Bunny, and then I read My Year of Rest and Relaxation. We had like our own little book club. We're so cute. My Year of Rest and Relaxation is about a very privileged, very rich girl who is dealing with the death of both of her parents, who she didn't have a great relationship with. She kind of takes all this money that she inherited from her parents and takes a ton of drugs, like an obscene amount of drugs, to try sleeping for an entire year, because she's convinced that if she sleeps for an entire year, it'll like rewire her brain. She's kind of insufferable. The main character, she sucks. And at some point, she gets prescribed this drug that is not a real drug. The rest of them had been like real drugs. She prescribes her this one that starts making her blackout. During these blackouts, she has no idea what she's doing. And so like shit kind of hits the fan, right? Because she's waking up and she's like, what the fuck? Like, she wakes up on the subway during one of her blackouts. It's just absurd. And just like Mona Awad, I love the way that Ottessa Moshfegh thinks. It's just that like ugliness of human nature that I love reading about, you know? Next up, we have a short story collection by LaRocca. The Trees Grew Because I Bled There. It was like, okay, I love a short story. I love reading short stories. It is like one of my favorite ways to get out of a reading slump or to like take breaks in between like big books. And so my thing with this one is that I really loved some of the stories, and I like could have done without some of the other stories. There's a lot of body horror and queerness, some wild shit happening in some of these stories. One where this girl is like really in love with this guy, and she keeps giving him like her body parts, like physically giving him her body parts, and then he hits her with a, yeah, I'm actually getting married to someone else. Oops. She's like, what the fuck? Because she's been like physically like giving herself parts of like limbs. I just thought that one was like an insanely good like metaphor for giving your all to someone who like doesn't give it back and blah 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 blah. And I would recommend it. Next up, we've got This Is How You Lose a Time War. I went through the craziest switch up with this book because I started reading it and I didn't like it. Basically, the book is about two like time travel agents. They work for these two different agencies who are like fighting the time war, and they travel through time, different like time strands, like parallel universes, and like in the past and the future and stuff, and basically alter events to like create the outcome that they want. Two agents, Blue and Red, are on opposing sides of this time war, and they encounter each other during this one battle and are just like infatuated by each other. You're my enemy, and I can't stop thinking about you because you enrage me for some reason, but like I can't stop thinking about you. They start like secretly communicating through letters. It's a cute little like sapphic enemies to lovers type of thing. Once I got to like halfway through the book and I like it clicked what was going on, I was like, oh, I kind of love this. Like, this is cute. I will say, like, I didn't know what was going on for the first, like, 50 pages. That could genuinely be because I have not read a lot of, like, sci-fi and, like, time travel. Some of the, like, ideas were just a little too abstract for me, I think, as, like, someone getting back into the genre. This was one of those books that I finished, and I was like, I can't wait to reread that because I need to better understand what's going on. I started getting into audiobooks this year, which I never thought would be a thing because I always hated audiobooks. I like tune out sometimes, and then I'm like, oh my god, how long, like when I tune back in, I'm like, how long did I tune out for? And I like go back and I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. My gateway into audiobooks was Hungerstone, which is a Carmilla retelling, which I think I'm going to pause on reading Carmilla retellings until I read Carmilla, because I've never read Carmilla. If you don't know what Carmilla is, it's like the novella that inspired Dracula. It is about this woman named Lenore, and her husband move into this new estate. Her husband fucking sucks. She starts suspecting that like he's having an affair with her best friend. They take in this lady that they found in like the woods or something. They take her in as a house guest, and Lenore kind of like is trying to like help her back to health, right? Something about Carmilla that like Lenore is like intrigued by. It's 'cause she's gay. It's 'cause she's gay. She turns into a vampire, and spoiler alert, close your ears if you don't want to know what happens, but she kills her husband. The feminine rage in this book is up there. My thing with it, and this could be just me being insane, I wanted it to be more violent. I wanted all the violence. I hated her husband. He sucked so bad. I thought that he deserved way worse than what he got, and I wanted more violence. And the ending to me felt like just a little bit rushed. It felt like it just got there like maybe a little too like close to the end. And the lady who reads the audiobook, by the way, she's fantastic. She has like the perfect British accent for it, and she does voices for each character. It's amazing. Next audiobook I listened to was Paradise Rot. This one I listened to because one, it was available and I needed an audiobook while I cleaned my apartment, and two, it was only like 3 hours. My major takeaway is there was a lot of piss. I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember the plot very much. She's like studying abroad. There's a lot of like exploration of like being isolated while being in another country by yourself, and she lives with this roommate who has like no boundaries. She goes through this kind of like sexual awakening, like a queer sexual awakening. There's so many piss scenes. Like there's so many detailed scenes of them like taking a piss. I didn't dislike it. Just wasn't like my most memorable read of the year so far. I have 2 poetry arcs that I read recently. I read these as ebooks. First one is called Enemy of the Sun, Poetry of Palestinian Resistance. This book was actually published in 1970 originally, but it's being republished with poems from modern Palestinian poets. I want to read you the description of it because the history behind this book is really interesting to me. In 1971, in the wake of George Jackson's killing by San Quentin prison guards, a poem entitled Enemy of the Sun was found among 99 books in the revolutionary cell. The handwritten poem came to be circulated in Black Panther newspapers under Jackson's name, assumed to be a vestige of his more than a decade-long incarceration. But Jackson never wrote the poem. It was authored by Palestinian poet, I'm going to put the name up here because I don't know how to pronounce it, and had been included in an anthology of the same title a year before Jackson's death. Part of this collection that I thought was so interesting and so important to read right now is that it was originally published in 1970 and is being revamped to include more recent works of Palestinian authors, and it just goes through decades and decades and decades of Israeli occupation and Zionism in Palestine. Obviously, with the genocide that is happening in Gaza right now, it's more important now than ever that people read the words that Palestinian authors have to say. It comes out on September 16th. I also read a poetry collection called Dead Things and Where to Put Them, and this poetry collection was about the pandemic. I try usually to steer clear of writing about the pandemic. Like, I just like personally don't want to relive that. Like, I think like too soon. But I actually really enjoyed this one. It explored motherhood and relationships and this like grief of what life could have been. I wish that I could give you guys direct quotes, but the book is not out yet. There was some poems that really like resonated. The author wrote about like explaining death and like a pandemic to young kids and being like, how the hell do I do that? Like, how do I explain to a kid, like, what is going on in the world? When lockdown happened, I was 19 and I moved home, and I have a little brother who is 11 years younger than me. So he was like 8 years old. Explaining all that heavy shit to like a child is like impossible. I also forgot one. This one, I didn't technically finish. I think I had like 30 minutes left of the audiobook, but it's called I Gave You Eyes and You Looked Towards Darkness. This book was absurd in the best way. It's a horror book. Basically tackles like generational trauma. One character who basically made a deal with the devil to be like, I'm gonna give you my soul if you give me like the perfect man, like a whole man. And then the devil sends her a man, and then he's like missing a toe, and she's like, this is not a whole man. And then the devil gets pissed at her, and then her whole family's cursed. The reason I didn't finish this book is because I wish I read it physically. It is a very non-linear structure, and so I was getting so lost, and there's so many characters in it, but the writing style was like, oh my god, like I haven't had a horror book like deeply disturb me like that in a while, just because of like the way that these scenes were written. There was one scene where like this couple just kept farting. They were farting so bad, and I want to read it physically. So now I want to quickly show you what I'm in the middle of reading. Emperor of Gladness by Ocean Vuong. I adore Ocean Vuong. He is one of my favorite poets of all time. I'm not getting through it very fast, and I think that's because it's very like slice of life. It's very slow paced, and so there's not a lot happening. It's just more so like one of those things that I kind of just want to pick up like when I feel like it. But it's about a 19-year-old. His name is Hval, and he tries to off himself by jumping off a bridge. And when he goes to do that, this old lady with dementia, she like shouts at him to not do that. And then he ends up becoming her caretaker. It's like this found family story, and it's really beautiful, and I just am adoring it so far. And what I am reading right now is Her Body and Other Stories. Like I said, We Love You Bunny took up most of my brain capacity, and I have been in a reading slump since, so I'm using a short story collection to try getting out of that reading slump. Next semester I'm actually taking a class called like Women and Female Bodies as Sites of Horror, and so this is kind of like a good little like preparation for that class. I think I'm still reading the first story right now, but so far it's wild. The first story in the collection is called Husband Stitch, and if you don't know what a husband stitch is, when you give birth and then you tear down there, the doctor may ask the husband if he wants an extra stitch down there to tighten things up. Not even the woman, like the husband, like they'll ask the husband. That's pretty fucking horrifying if you ask me. But yeah, that was everything I've read so far this year. I'm so glad to be back on YouTube now that I have this big ass stack of books in front of me, this big messy ass stack of books in front of me. I have to organize my bookshelf. I really do. I am planning on making another video like organizing my bookshelf with you guys, but if you have anything else you want to see, let me know. Let me know what your guys' favorite reads for this year have been so far, and yeah, I'll see you next time.